Kylo Ren. I'll show you the dark side.
All right, so we're here to talk about this one-of-a-kind Mystery Starkiller Variant from Starfall Sabers. So this is one of, well, technically this is the second of 4, but each one is going to be different. So Nick did a limited run. So this one, obviously the main feature is the crossguard. So I don't have dagger blades for these, but I will, when we drop down to the table, show off each piece of the emitter. So right now I've just got these blade plugs that I printed in, but we'll go over and show all that in detail. We'll talk about the chassis. We'll talk about some of the features that went into the programming, but for the most part, we'll hop back out with the blade in. We'll show off the rest. So let's do that now. Thanks for checking it out. All right, so here we are, Mystery Starkiller Variant 2 of 4, as the plaque says. This came to me directly from Nick. So this is obviously a crossguard variant of the Starkiller design that Nick did with probably a lot of freedom. I'm not sure how much communication happened between him and the client, but obviously the client wanted a crossguard. And so this is probably the only of its kind. Nick did ask if I could resin print some blade plugs. So I designed something very similar to the Kylo Ren, I think, blade plug style, but then painted it in copper, clear coated it. So we have an exposed crystal chamber here, and then our grip retention screw is right here masked in this kind of Graflex style design under this particular circle. So here's the set screw Allen key for that. This will also work for the blade retention on the cross guards, but on the main blade, you've got the red button thumb screw. So the button doesn't actually do anything. It's actually a blade retention screw. So I'm going to go ahead and take the grip off real quick, and then we'll talk about all the other components as well. So here's the resin greeblie chassis I painted for this one. So this is another repeat of my press fit designs that came out of Mystery Sabers 174 through 176. I'm forgetting which number this actually is, but I painted it to, match the aesthetics of this particular saber. So one of the other nice features is there's a secondary crystal chamber in the grip. So not only do we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 emitters, but we've got a rotary. This is a Shadowfoil accent PCB underneath that crystal. Underneath this crystal, I simplified it. So this is just a single 50-50 accent because most of the time this will be covered up anyway. But we do have a Edison filament here under this baffled greeblie. So you can see there's some weathering pigments there to sort of have some scorch marks. So we've got kind of the straw color on the outer parts, and then this bluish color, tinted color on the center parts. And then just, some random pops of color. And then on this side, we have a 2020 NeoPixel accent strip subbladed into 3 individual blades underneath that baffle. We have a 28mm KR bass speaker. We've got our 18650 battery. You just pop it out with your hand like that. With the Starfall logo in the battery, obviously positive terminals clearly indicated, but as always, your spring side is your negative. Do be careful when you go to put the battery in. This is a press fit. I used a little bit of adhesive here to kind of keep it secure, but over time that could wear out if you're constantly pulling away from the grip. So when you go to put the battery in, let me demonstrate one more time. I always suggest on these press fit designs, you kind of use your extra fingers to sort of grip. And instead of just like shoving the battery in, we kind of hold and we just use our finger to press down, right? And then that way we've got our battery in there. And then we got a kill switch here, Proffie V3.9, OS 714, I believe. Config is on the SD card. So when we want to take the blade plugs out, we'll go ahead and undo these. Now, because these are resin printed, I'm not using a lot of force on these guys when I set them in place. So here we go. Here's our little blade plug. So we'll get plenty of shine through, right? It doesn't matter which one you put in. They're both the same. There is a 30 millimeters of depth on these two. And then obviously we can undo that set screw and pop this out. So you'll never mix these up because the main is 45, I think was the measurement. But you can see these blade plugs are taller than the cross guards. So, but they're all 7/8 blades. I'll need to get a confirmation from John Rossi over at Sabers Forever, who's going to be helping do the Quillian blades. So I've got a test blade here. I'm going to reprogram this once I know for sure how many pixels he's installed into that. That way there's no clue. Right now it's just programmed at like 30, which is probably plenty. But we are going to just use this kind of dagger blade to demo each of these. So again, 7/8 blade. The main blade is programmed for a 32-inch length. That's typical in all the Starfall Sabers. But I'm going to confirm with John Rossi what the pixel count is for the Quillian blades. On each, we have Shtok V4 Eco. So these will just mimic whatever the blade's going to do so that whenever you just have the blade plugs in, you'll get some shine through with those onboard pixels, and there's a bunch of them. So when we're ready, we can hit the kill switch. Get your boot sound. So there you can see kind of a breathing on that crystal. A blinking on that one. So you can see there's two different things going on there. You can see the triple subblade on that accent strip. And then we can see the Red Edison filament kind of doing its thing over here with like a pulsing, blinking. And then under our one Replicas switchbox, top is our main, bottom is our aux. So to move forward in the presets, hit aux in the off.
Celestial.
To go backwards, point the hilt down and press aux.
Starfall.
You do have twist on and twist off as well as thrust on. Those will get you into battle mode. It's pretty typical on all of the Starfalls I install, but we'll go ahead and just hit our activation. See all those lighting up. Go ahead and throw one in just so you can get an idea what it looks like. Okay, so we'll go ahead and throw the dagger blade in here just to demonstrate. Back off the retention screw here. Make sure it's seated on those pogos, press it down, and then we'll just ignite that up real quick. So we know that works, right? We know that one works. Now we know that works as well. So these two are parallel on the config. So I think we have 8 or 9 blades. So it's one. These two are the exact same. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, so we have 8 blades. In the config, it'll go main blade, and then these are aux. So right now, just for ease of programming, all of the presets essentially duplicate on the Quillians what's happening on the main. There's a couple examples where that's a little bit different. The customer had me install some K-Sith fonts. So one of those is the crossguard. So what I did do was I enabled the extra ignition options that have a slight delay, and then I programmed the delay on the Quillian blades. So those are a unique blade style. But for the most part, everything else is just going to be duplicated. So that being said, all the colors were matched. And for the most part, the exposed crystal will also match the blade style. Now, when it comes to non-Starfall fonts, that could vary. I just mixed it up is all I'm going to get at, so that there's a little bit of difference. So for instance, this is probably like a orange red or a dark orange versus a red, which with my bright lighting here doesn't exactly show up. But that being said, you can see we got similar colors. Again, this may be a cyan and this may be a Dodger blue or something like that. So, but for the most part, the exposed crystal will always match the actual blades. And again, the Quillian blades will pretty much match the main blade in terms of style. There could be some variations on there. That being said, this does support the Starfall sound font package, 8 presets, battery level indicator at the end. The customer also requested 12 additional fonts from KSith. Those are on here as well. So it'll go Starfall, KSith. I put a couple, like 3 or 4 extra default Proffie fonts at the end as well, just so that there's a little bit more example of things that can be done. They're out of universe. And so the styles will match. But for the most part, activation, right? Everything's working. Blaster blocks with our aux or clash with that. So when you are ready to put the grip on, and Nick demoed this as well in his video to the customer, but you will see these 2 crystal chamber accent rods are intended to line up with these copper things. And then you'll notice just a little bit of a mar here. And so that'll help you remember where to line it up. So put the grip on. Do be mindful that this is a press fit. So you want to be a little bit gentle when you do this so that we're not going to break anything. And then you can sort of look down to sort of make sure everything's lined up, and then take the provided Allen key and cinch it down, right? And we've got plenty of room for our speaker. So sounds really good. So I've got this set to about 2250. And then what I like to do on the actual volume menu, which you can get into by pressing power then aux.
Enter volume menu.
So this is the Brian Connor Starkiller OS pack. So when you go
Maximum volume.
up, I always generally do it 1 or 2 clicks down.
Volume menu end.
Hero's Journey.
As let me go ahead and take the grip back off so we can see some of these accent styles. And then we'll throw a blade on it. So here's an example of where I've got like a difference between the grip crystal and the main crystal. Main crystal matches the blade color, but the grip crystal has its own style, own color. Right? It is reacting to blaster blocks. Same with the accent strip. Some of the accent strip animations may or may not react to clashes or blaster blocks, but for the most part they do. So here we can see the Edison filament pulsing, and then you can just see some of these greeblie details. I'm gonna get a close up on some of these miniature paints right there. So here's another example. Different colors on the accent strip in the on and off state.
Reconcile.
All right, so that's going to pretty much cover this part of it. So we'll put a blade in and we'll go over a few more things. Anything that's not covered in this video, I've got a printout here with all of the instructions. There's a link at the very last page should you want to learn more about how to program or go into further detail. This is sporting the FET263 prop file. So there's a ton of features that I don't go over, but will be on the printout. And then those videos better explain it as well. And again, this does have edit mode. I don't go into that here, but edit mode just allows you to kind of on the Saber itself, go between a few different functions. Again, this does have the OS voice pack from Brian Connor. So like I showed you, holding power and tapping aux gets you into the volume menu. Holding aux and tapping power gets into the battery level indicator. So if we go to the very last preset.
Battery level.
So on the battery level preset, there will be a bubble on the main blade, and then the quillions, there will be nothing. You can see there's nothing on the chassis itself, but the crystals will go from green to red. But if you want a live readout, you can hold aux and tap power.
Battery level 90%.
So you get a percentage there, but you can do that on any of the presets. So if we go forward,
Starfall.
do that again, hold aux, tap power.
Battery level 90%.
So, and then these accent pixels, so I'll just leave this here for a second. They are set on a timer of 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, they will turn off and it'll go into a sleep mode. It's not a deep sleep, so it will slightly drain the battery. And then if you wanted to wake it back up, you would need to hit the power button. And otherwise, if you were going to kind of leave it for the main part, you can just hit your kill switch and everything turns off. So that's the Saber. Again, anything I don't cover is on the printout. And then we'll put a blade in and we'll go over the rest of it now. One last thing I also wanted to demonstrate just for the customer's sake, since he did ask for some extra programming. So this is the last of the Starfall font package. This is Cornhorn. So I'm going to hit aux and we'll go forward. And this will be the start of the K-Sith font. So this one is aggression. And if it came with a blade style, I used that blade style. If it did not, I checked the website to see what he demoed the blade color as and tried to replicate that, or just pick one that I thought made sense. So this one is like, I think, an orangish red. So you can see it's kind of a yellow, orange red. And then just similar Sith looking thing here.
Sabine Wren.
So here we go. I did a mix of colors on this one because obviously Sabine's lightsaber is actually Ezra's. So we've got a green here, and then Ezra, when he built his new saber in the show, has a blue one. So I just thought it'd be fun to mix those up.
The one true Emperor.
So this one's going to be just basically a red blade style. Not even sure what this one's. Oh, this one's yellow. Here's another one with a mix of colors.
Kylo Ren.
So this one, I think, is the crossguard, I believe. So this one should have the delayed. It's like 275 milliseconds, so it's very imperceptible. But it does match the sounds that came with it, the ignition sounds. So you hear that. So that second like sound is when the second ones come on. There, you can see it. Do it one more time. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to demo that real quick before we put the blade in and show off some of those extra styles. So one more thing that I did want to mention to the customer, I'm going to throw this. This is a PCB I've designed for these One Replicas boxes. It doesn't quite match the color scheme, but I'm going to throw it in there just as an extra. If you did want to change it out, there are these really tiny Allen keys here. you'd back those out just a little bit. You could slide your PCB out. Be careful of the onboard tactiles. And when you go to put it in, just make sure you hit it over the buttons as you slide it back on. It'll just be there for an extra. You'll never need it. But I have several of these that I haven't had a chance to kind of put up on a website yet. But I just thought I'd throw that in there as an extra with your plate. So I hope you enjoy that. Okay, so we talked about some of the features that went into this particular install with the dual crystals, all the accent features. But let's go ahead and just show off a few of blade styles. We'll cover some of the extra programming that the customer requested in terms of fonts. Up top of this video, I showed off the the Kylo Ren sound font, because it is the one blade style that I programmed to have the Quillions do the ignition delay. You'll only be able to really see that when you've got all three blades in. I just have a dagger blade, and I don't really know yet particularly how many pixels I'm going to have to program for these. So those are getting built right now. But we can show off all of the other things. So I may have mentioned it down below, but these each of these three emitters take a 7/8 diameter blade. For the main blade, I've got this program for a 32-inch blade length, which is typical of the Starfall installs. And I am demoing this with a KR pixel stick so that we got, kind of a decent color shine. But I've left the blade plugs in for the Quillions. Down below, I showed off with a little dagger blade that they do all work, and they are all sporting the Shtok V4 Eco NeoPixel, so that when no blades are in, you can see some shine through there. So if you ever did just want to wield this with a single blade, you'll still get those shine throughs. And with the cool looking blade plug, you'll get some interesting effects. So that being said, several ways to ignite the Saber. So obviously with our one Replicas box, top is going to be our main, bottom is our aux. We also have twist on and thrust on in terms of gesture controls. And both of those gesture controls will get you into battle mode. I did show that up top of this video. So battle mode just means you don't have to hold a button to engage lockups. So lockups, I also demoed this up top. Lockups are mid-blade or tip effects. So the tip effects can be when sideways, a melt, or when inverted will be a drag. And then just regular, if you're actually clashing with, like you're dueling, then you'll get the regular lockup. But for regular mode, we can ignite with the power button. So now if we do clash the Saber, we're just gonna get glancing clash effects, right? If we wanna do blaster blocks, we'll hit aux, right? And then in this state, if we did wanna get enough to a lockup, we do have to hold either aux or power as we clash, okay? So as long as we're holding the button, we'll get lockups. And that does show in the crystal as well, for the most part. The inner grip crystal may or may not, or some of the accents may or may not react. But with the grip on, you're not going to see that. So I did make sure that the main crystal, for the most part, has all of the reactivity that the main blade does. So we'll twist off. So just one more time, twist on or thrust on, which is a sideways push or a pull. So obviously with the Kylo, I'm doing the pull like he does in the film. So now we're in battle mode. So now I'll clash. We'll engage the lockup until I pull out of that position. You can, again, you can be in a tip effect as well. And you can move the blade around as I demonstrated up at the beginning of this video. But when you pull away, that's when you get it. So again, those are the only gesture controls I have programmed. And if that's not your preferred method, then obviously regular mode with just the power. So to start and stop the tracks, we have a designated track if we're pointing the blade straight up, or we can have a track player if we have the blade sideways. When the blade is ignited, you can only start and stop the designated track, and it has to be in the vertical position. So let's just demonstrate that real quick. 1, 2. So it's like a 2-second main button, or your main button, to turn it on and to turn it off. Okay, so that's the designated track. Now, in the track player mode, you'll hear a little chime, and then it'll start right away with the top alphanumerically ordered track. So when you rotate to the right, you'll move forward alphanumerically. When you rotate left, you'll go backwards. So let's do that real quick. And if you can't hear, I'm rotating and it's jumping between tracks. If we wanted to stay on that track, you have a number of options. I'll let you read them, but you just either hit aux or power. So now if I move, I'm not going to change tracks, but I can turn it on and off again with that 2-second main button click. So that's track player mode. Now with the Saber ignited, again, you have to be vertical to start and stop the track. All right. So what you may have heard there, which I didn't realize I left in there, was a quote. So just like starting and stopping the track vertically, if we want to switch between force player and quote player, we need to point the hilt down with the blade ignited. So because I demoed that up top of this video, I left it in quote player mode. So let me demonstrate that real quick. Okay, to tilt the hilt down, and you'll know you'll switch because you'll trigger a sound. And sometimes I'm not counting right. There we go. Okay, so what you will notice is on all of the blade styles and presets, I've done a quick animation. So for the most part, it'll be for as long as a sound is playing. If I got the blade style from the sound font maker, I don't know if that is true, but for the Starfall fonts collection, it is. So let me just demonstrate this without the blade on. So in the Starfall sound font collection, there are only force effects, wave files, I should say. You may have a mix of quotes or force sounds, but the wave file itself is just called force effect. So if you switch back and forth, you won't get any quotes. But because we are on the Kylo from K-Sith, we do have the quotes in there. And so I switched to the force player, as I just demonstrated, and the blade did a kind of yellowish aura effect. So if we go backwards.
Hero's Journey.
So here we go. We're on Hero's Journey now. So this will be a demonstration of just the force effect player. So again, all of these track player ignitions and stuff like that is with the main button holding a long press for 2 seconds. And I may fudge it a little because I'm not counting correctly. But so as long as we're not pointed directly upright or completely inverted, we'll get a force or a quote depending on which preset we're on. In the Starfall collection, we're only going to get force effects. So you heard that sound effect, and you can see it goes unstable for just as long as that sound effect plays. Right? And on this particular sound font, there are no quotes, but on the first few sound fonts, there's like a lengthy kind of quote for the lore that Nick asked the sound font maker to program in. So again, those you won't need to switch back and forth, but any other font that I've programmed from like K-Sith, or if in the future you decide to add extra fonts to the SD card, as long as you formatted those file names correctly and put them in the correct folder name, then you can switch back and forth between force or quote player, pointing the hilt down, and then it'll either play the force and you'll have the blade style, or it'll play a quote and you won't have the blade style. So I hope that is clear. If not, you can read out on the printout. So one other thing I wanted to demonstrate was our color change. Now, I don't suggest for these high detailed resin greeblie chassis with a bunch of accent pixels to do the on the fly color wheel change, because you will change whatever you change the blade to. Every other NeoPixel will turn to that color as the main color. So because the chassis effects and the crystal has off colors, those will be unaffected. But to do that, when the blade is on, hold aux and tap power, you get that little notification. And now if we rotate, we're gonna go through the color wheel by color name. And then because this does have the OS font pack from Brian Connor for Starkiller, he'll actually announce the color.
Red, orange, red, dark orange, orange.
But you can see on the Quillian, and you can see on this particular crystal,
Yellow.
like it's changing every color to that. If that's okay with you, then you hit power to accept.
Green.
But if we don't, we'll hit aux. But I'll go ahead and hit aux,
Revert.
and he'll say revert. So that being said, we did kind of land on green there, but what would happen is all of the other things would be green. So again, that's a lot of information, but the way to change individual blade colors would be to hop into edit mode. I'm not going to go over that here, but you'd hold both power and aux at the same time in the off state. It'll ignite, it'll tell you you're in edit mode, and then you can read on the printout the menu modes to get to, but you'll just basically go to color options, select which blade. Now, I've made it easy in the fact that the main blade and the Quillians are blade 1 and blade 2 respectively, so that if those are the only things you want to change, you can get to them a lot quicker than if you wanted to change any of the chassis accents. So that being said, that's my suggestion. You can read about edit mode in the printout. But again, if you don't mind the fact that it's going to reprogram only the on-state colors for everything to be the exact same color that you pick, you can do that little on-the-fly color change by holding aux and tapping power. The only exception to that rule is the corn horn sound or preset from Starfall. So for this particular preset, color change is actually just color change direct. It's just going to flip-flop between two colors, the silverish white color blade and a light purple. So here we got our silverish white color, and you can sort of see that's true of the Quillians. It's also true of this crystal, and if we do hold aux and tap power, it'll wipe to purple, and I've got that also in the crystal as well. So all of these change to that color, right? See if we can show the wipe. Hopefully you can see that on my arm or my sleeve. It changes. So that being said, this is the only exception to that rule. It's just going to jump back and forth. However, if you do want to program that, you can do that again with edit mode, and it will be the base color versus the alt color. Again, this is a lot of information, but I'm not going to cover that in detail. So chances are this will be out of the box just exactly how you want it. But if it's not, then that's how to change the colors. We'll just show off a few more blade styles real quick. So you'll notice preons only happen if you click the power button. If you do a gesture control, you'll bypass them. But so this is a blade style that came from the K-Sith font itself. I did not program this. The only thing I did do was program all the accents on the crystal, etc. If you want to do a lightning block, you can hold power and tap aux. For as long as you hold the button, right? That's holding power and then tapping aux. So.
Sabine Wren. The one true Emperor.
The strongest. You claim wretched havoc.
That's another blade style that came from the font maker.
Kylo Ren. Ahsoka Tano.
Saber.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap this up here. I do want to show off one last thing.
Battery level
Okay, so now we're on the battery level. This is the last preset of all of the presets. So again, on the crystal chamber and in the grip crystal, those will go from green to red. Green obviously being a good charge, red getting down. You'll probably hear speaker crackle before you actually see red, which is your indication to go ahead and take the battery out and charge it. But with a blade in, you get this little bubble indicator. Because this is programmed for a 32-inch blade length, when it's fully 100%, it'll be all the way to the tip. And as it depletes, it'll come down here. It'll also change colors. Right now it's blue, and it will also go down to a red color, down to the grip, to the hilt. But again, you can do an on-the-fly battery level indication from any preset by holding aux and tapping power.
Battery level 72%.
So that will cover this demo. Anything that's not covered here will be on the printout. There's quite a bit to learn with this particular setup. So if you have any questions to the customer, once you receive this, let me know and just email me. But I hope you enjoy it. To the viewers out there watching these just for fun, I thank you for sticking around. I know my videos are a little bit long, but yeah, may the force be with you.